everyone. A very warm welcome to MSM CBU eSummit 2020 Live. Thank you for connecting with us today. You're here with MSM and CBU team, and we will ensure that this session will certainly add value to your knowledge and experience for Cape Breton University. This session will be taken by none other than our Senior International Recruitment Manager, Mr. Brett McLean. Before we start, we would like to take you through the basic features of Zoom webinar. Please note that this is a webinar and your videos and mics will be inactive during the session. For any questions, for any technical questions, you can put up in the chat box, and any other questions related to CBU, you can put it in the Q&A section. I will not take much of your time, and now I am handing over to Brett to take you through CBU's presentation.
Thank you, Dakshita, and thank you, Raul. And of course, thank you to everyone who's taken some time in your early evening to listen to a general overview of some of the programs at Cape Breton University. I think all of you are very well aware of the unique selling points of Canada, why Canada. So I wouldn't like to take too much time to talk about that, but rather about some of the unique programs that we do offer. Any questions or topics about career opportunities after post-graduation, and of course, postgraduate work permits. So I know some of you have been on previous presentations that we've done, but just to give you a quick refresher, Cape Breton University is located on Cape Breton Island in the province of Nova Scotia. Cape Breton Island, while it is an island, it is not in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. It actually is connected by a land bridge to the mainland. And to put that in perspective, we're about a 2-hour direct flight to Toronto in Ontario, as well as about a 2-hour flight from New York City. One of the things, and one of the reasons why I usually start off with talking about the place first, is because I want to manage everyone's expectations of the environment that your students will be studying in. Of course, different students have different expectations. Some students want to live in a large city like Toronto or Vancouver, and other students might prefer to live in a place that is a bit smaller or that has a lower cost of living. For us here in Cape Breton, we're actually recognized as the #1 island and tourist destination in North America by Travel and Leisure magazine, and the #3 island in the world. We are a smaller place. We're only about 1 million people in Nova Scotia, or about 150,000 in Cape Breton. Considering that, the tourist industry here is quite significant, and we get a large tourist group every year from May until October that are coming for our beaches, ski resorts, coming for whale watching and beach resorts. Considering that, most tourists don't come to a huge busy place in Canada, but rather a place to relax. So certainly for your students, it is a very safe, clean place to live, very easy to get around. But again, it's not Toronto and it's not Vancouver. If you do go onto YouTube, you'll see a lot of student testimonials from the India and subcontinent region, as well as a lot of tourism videos. Obviously, since COVID-19, the tourism industry has taken a little bit of a hit. So this is more of a general overview of what we typically offer. Now, in terms of the university experience, again, we are a smaller university. We're only about 6,000 full-time students, but we do have over 2,500 international students from 56 different countries. And I think what this means for a lot of international students is that they get the best of both worlds. They do get that small university experience where they get to know their professors and other students around them. But of course, they also get a very multicultural experience as well. There, of course, are a lot of students coming from the India subcontinent region, as well as Africa, coming from Asia, the United States, and Europe. And we are a publicly funded government institution. So any questions about a postgraduate work permit, they, of course, are entitled after they graduate. In terms of the study options, what we're going to be talking about today, we do have over 100 different programs. We're not going to be talking about all of them. We're not even going to be talking about the ones that we always talk about. What I'd like to do today is take maybe 5 or 6 programs that I think are really going to be good for you as an educational consultant to promote to your students, not just because they're a good program, but also because I think when they do graduate, they are going to have an opportunity for employment in Canada, and also good employment, not just something that's going to last them a week or a month. And within that, we will include undergraduate programs, but more importantly, some postgraduate options that our students do have. Before we start that, I know this is quite important to your students, is the study work permit and working while they study. Because we are a publicly funded institution, we do have a designated learning institution code. So students are allowed to work while they study. Between April and May, they're allowed to work 20 hours per week. It's important though, when your students are asking you about this, that they do know they have to be registered in at least 3 subjects to still be able to work part-time. So a student can't just take 1 or 2 subjects and then work the rest, or they can't take, say, January to April off to work. They do have to be registered in a minimum of 3 subjects. And then for the scheduled breaks, like summer break from May until August, or a Christmas break, or at reading week when they have a week off, they can work full-time. And this includes both on-campus and off-campus work. If students do find a job though on campus, part-time, they are able to work more than 20 hours. The 20-hour rule does not apply to jobs that are on campus. Now, in terms of the work that they're going to have, while they're working part-time, minimum wage in Nova Scotia is approximately $12 per hour, okay? That is usually enough to cover any small bills. It's enough to probably cover your rent if you're working 20 hours a week. But certainly, students aren't able to come to Canada and assume to pay for their international tuition by working part-time. They do have to show that they can support themselves without having to work part-time. And this is really where, when applying for the visa, showing that financial support. So while we do allow students to work, they do have to be able to support themselves, because some students, given the workload, they might not be able to work part-time and be successful in all of their subjects. Considering that, most of our international students do work, but of course we are a smaller place. So compared to Toronto or compared to Vancouver, there are more limited work options. And for any students that are interested in working part-time, we strongly recommend when they arrive to, of course, go to the Reading Center and get their CV updated, and to follow the Student Union and other websites for part-time opportunities here. Considering that, when they do graduate and they're looking for full-time employment within the actual field of study that they've come here to do, we do have something called a co-op, which means cooperative education, which they are eligible to work in their industry, usually in the final year or 2 of their studies, in the industry they're studying. So let me give you an example. If you have a student that's coming to study accountancy, they're doing a Bachelor of Business in Accountancy. In year 3 or in year 4 of their accountancy, they can do a co-op where we actually give them a business tie-up that we have a partnership with to work as an accountant for 4 months in their field. And of course, when they graduate, this is going to be quite good because it's going to give them work experience and be able to have them go to employers and say, I've worked in Canada already as an accountant, you should hire me. The co-op program does have some restrictions. We do have to have the students having at least a 75% average, because we do have specific partnerships and tie-ups with industry, and we do want to send them our students that are doing academically well. We don't want to give them a student that, is just barely passing, because I don't think that will reflect well on us or on the company. So that is a co-op option. But also too, for students that are doing other industries like engineering, public health, hospitality, we also do have 2 work fairs per year in September and in March, where companies actually come to the university and interview our students before they graduate. Nova Scotia, again, is a smaller province, and there are very specific industries to Nova Scotia. If a student is studying petroleum, they're probably going to have to go to Alberta. There are some, of course, exceptions. There are petroleum industries or oil and gas companies that do work in Nova Scotia, but the majority of them work in Alberta. That's where our large oil and gas sectors are in Canada. If students are interested in working in finance, in investment banking, on the stock market, realistically, they're probably going to have to go to Toronto because that's our economic center. It's probably similar in India that, you know, if a student wanted to study theater or become an actor, they're likely not going to go to UP. They're going to have to go to Bombay. This is where the Bollywood scene is. This is where a lot of your financial industries are. And again, there are exceptions, but this is where the majority of them do go. Considering that, for Nova Scotia, we do have a number of good programs for students that do want to remain in Nova Scotia. IBM has a very large operation based out of Nova Scotia. They have a headquarters there, or certainly if students are studying business analytics or they're studying business-related programs, IBM tends to hire a lot of our students. Given that we're on the Atlantic Ocean and very close to international shipping lanes, a lot of our students that are doing supply chain management, logistics, they often have a lot of job opportunities. Students that are interested in working in hospitality, tourism management, there's not enough people to fill all the jobs in Eastern Canada or in Nova Scotia. So again, when you're having that conversation with your students about career opportunities, manage your expectations. Some students choose to study in Nova Scotia knowing full well that they're going to move to another province after they graduate. But the reason why they start in Nova Scotia is because Nova Scotia has excellent permanent residence opportunities. So another option for students might be study in Nova Scotia, stay here for 6 months after you graduate because the permanent residence options are much better here than in, say, Ontario, and then shift to another city. But again, this is a part of the bigger conversation that I think as an educational consultant that you guys need to be having. And of course, we will help guide the students once they arrive and what options there are for them, depending on what they want. I don't want to spend too much more time on this. We can now, but we can talk about this more at the end if you have questions. And more importantly too, we do have a full-time immigration consultant at the university who can offer their students immigration advice, legal advice, free of charge while they're here and when they graduate. Okay, so if you do have questions, give me about maybe 20, 30 minutes and we can talk about that in a bit more detail. One last thing before we do actually get to the programs is the tuition. Tuition is based on how many subjects a student takes per semester, not necessarily by semester. In the end, everyone who takes the same program pays the same tuition. It's just the timeline in which it's paid. So let me give you an example. If you have two identical students studying a Bachelor of Business in Accounting, one student takes 3 subjects from September until December, and another takes 5 subjects. The student that takes 5 subjects in that business program is going to pay more that semester than the student that takes only 3. However, the student that takes 5 subjects that semester is going to have to take less semesters than the student that takes 3. So in the end, everyone ends up paying the same amount. It's just the distribution of how that tuition is paid. This year, our tuition has been approved and it's going to be approximately 18,000 Canadian dollars for 1 academic year. An academic year is 2 semesters and it assumes that students take 5 subjects in semester 1 and 5 subjects in semester 2. If a student over 2 semesters only took 3 subjects in semester 1 and 3 subjects in semester 2, it's going to be less than 18,000 Canadian dollars that year. But if students want to take extra subjects, it's going to be a little bit more. I know that is a little bit different than the way it's calculated in your country, but it's the way that we do it here, and I'll do my best to kind of explain that. One thing I know that we always must stress to the students is that if students do not pass a subject, we do not have resits or they cannot take it again. If they fail the subject, they must take it again, and more importantly, pay for it again. And I say this because we do have students that decide, you know what, I want to take that extra shift at a cafe or at a warehouse working overnight to make a little bit of extra money. Unfortunately, a lot of the times when they do this, they end up missing class because they have to work part-time instead of going to school, and they don't get the right information for their classes and end up failing. So I would guide your students that, look, don't sacrifice your classes to make a little bit of extra pocket money, because in the end, any extra pocket money you make, you're going to have to use that to pay for the subject again. Okay? So we don't have backlogs. Subjects are usually evaluated on an exam, on coursework, and other in-class projects. So please make sure they know that if they don't pass a class, they have to pay it again. And professors aren't out to fail students. If students are going to classes, they're doing the coursework, the professors are there to help them. But it's just important to know that, okay? For the post-grad programs in, say, business, for example, the post-grad programs are actually more affordable than the undergraduate programs. The post-grad programs in business for the entire 2 years are approximately $27,000 this year. It's usually about $17,000 in year one and $10,000 in year two. So your second year actually is a little bit cheaper, and that's because of the way the subjects are distributed in year one versus year two. But you can do a post-baccalaureate business program or a post-grad program that will cost only 27,000 Canadian dollars for the entire program. And I think if you look at that price compared to Ontario, Alberta, or British Columbia and other universities, it's a very, very good price point. Okay? Now, on to the subjects. We'll first look at the Shannon School of Business here. This is one of our, probably our most popular program this year for India and subcontinent students. And we're not really even going to look at the four-year majors. I think I wanted to have a quick look at the Bachelor of Hospitality and Tourism Management and the postgraduate business programs, okay? Because I know students have a real interest in outcomes and job opportunities when they graduate, the Hospitality and Tourism Management program is a great program to consider for a couple of reasons. Number one, it's a 3-year program, not 4. And even if students do have, say, an undergraduate hospitality qualification or a business qualification, they can transfer into this program and do it within 2 years instead of 3. But I think this is also a better program than a lot of other places because there's a required work term that every student must complete. Actually, there's 2 required work terms. The reason why this is because this is a very hands-on experimental learning program. If students are interested in working in one of our golf resorts, ski resorts, beach resorts, in the cruise industry, we have all of this in Cape Breton, and we actually don't have enough people for these positions pre-COVID. I think this year is going to be a little bit different given global tourism has dropped. But generally speaking, we have almost 100% employment immediately after graduation. And for those 2 work terms while they're studying, because it's required, we will help them find the job, and they are paid. Students make approximately 10,000 Canadian dollars over the 2 work terms, and we're the only university in Canada partnered with the Intercontinental Hotel Group. So those hotels like the Intercon, the Crown Plaza, the Holiday Inn, we do have partnerships with them. So if an outcome of employment after you graduate is big for your students, and in particular permanent residence in Nova Scotia, this is a very, very good program to consider. Of course, the other programs that I want to talk about are the postgrad programs in business. We have 3 options for those students at the moment in supply chain management, business analytics, and of course, business management. These 3 programs, again, I think are going to have good employment outcomes, particularly post-COVID. And I'll tell you why. Given our geography, given the fact that we are right on the Atlantic Ocean, when big cargo ships or fast-moving consumer goods from Europe, India, Africa, or the eastern coast of Latin America come to Canada, they have to come to Nova Scotia first. As a result, we have huge shipping logistics operations based in Nova Scotia, and students that study supply chain management are going to be able to consider this as an option when they graduate. Moving forward from COVID-19 and this pandemic, I think there's going to be a huge focus on the way that countries and companies change their supply chains, given there's been a lot of bottlenecks and problems with some other Asian countries. So I think post-COVID supply chain is going to be an interesting industry, but also business analytics. I think I was reading something the other day that 6 industries that are going to do very good after this is online retail, it's going to be the gig economy, or online shopping. And in order to do this, companies and industries need to know where their customers are going. And this data is generated from their internet activity, their social media activity, and the business analytics program is the back end of this, and actually taking these huge data sets and making it into meaningful information. There's only a few universities in Canada that offer a post-grad program in business analytics. We are one of them. A lot of our students are finding employment right after graduation with IBM in Halifax. But I would say one thing about the business analytics program is that it is a fairly tough program. In order to get in, you must have an overall 70% Canadian average and a 75% in at least 2 maths or 2 statistics in university. Okay? The post-grad programs are open to anyone, engineering graduates, arts graduates, science graduates. But for the business analytics program, it's probably only going to be your maths, your statistics, or finance students, because we do require 2 maths or 2 statistics programs. So again, if you do have students interested in a short 2-year program with good job opportunities afterward, these post-baccalaureate programs should be considered. The way they're broken down is that over the 2 years, students will be here for 4 semesters. 3 of them will be in class, but the final semester will either be a work term or a research project. And this will be decided usually in the 2nd or 3rd semester based on their grades and conversation with faculty about what their options are. Similar to the co-op program, there is a minimum average that you must have in order to qualify for the work term. It is a 70%. So students that are not meeting that will have to do the research project instead of the work term. But again, I think these are some good opportunities. You will notice too, by the way, there is a medical plan. This is $750 a year. Those students that are joining us online in September will not have to pay this right away. The medical plan is only for students that are going to be studying with us in Canada, okay? So those are the main programs at the moment. We are in the process of having a new post-baccalaureate program approved by the government, and it's going to be in healthcare management. It is not available yet, but it is coming, and I just want to give you a heads up on that. Next is the School of Science and Technology. This has typically been a huge program in India because of the 2-year post-degree option, or the fact that high school students could do it as a 2-year diploma. We do have 4 streams: electrical, petroleum, environmental, and chemical. This is still available. Again, we will be offering the first part of this online come September. But of course, petroleum engineering was a very popular program given the industry's size and success in Canada. But if you look at the current oil and gas industry globally, it has dropped significantly. We are expecting a drop in numbers for the petroleum engineering program, given the recent price of oil. I think historically, oil prices have always come in waves. So perhaps a student that starts now, when they graduate in a couple of years, the price of oil will be back to normal. But I think given the volatility and given the uncertainty around this industry, we do expect to see a drop in numbers. If you guys have some comments about your students, I would love to hear them. If this is something that they're still interested in applying for, we can definitely have a conversation about that at the end. Next is my favorite school, School of Arts and Social Sciences. We don't have a huge uptake in this program, unfortunately, with Indian and subcontinent students or international students in general. But there are a couple of programs I do want to highlight. We do have a 2-year diploma in public administration and management. Again, it's a 2-year program, so that might be very appealing for students. But also for our undergraduate students, we have a unique program called the Bachelor of Arts and Science in the Environment. And this is a very unique program in Canada because I think it's us and maybe one other institution that's offering this. It combines the arts program and the science program. This program was conceived because we had a lot of students who were studying the social sciences, and when they graduated, felt they had very good communication and written skills, but didn't possess those hard science skills like labs or writing lab reports. Conversely, we had science students who, when they graduated, felt they had excellent laboratory skills, but not necessarily the written or the oral communication skills of other social science students. So what we've done is we've combined these two programs where students will get the opportunity to take political science and communication courses, but also a lot of chemistry, biology, and lab-focused programs as well. If students are interested in this, they can go on to graduate school or other research when they graduate at the master's level. But to get into this program, we do require a minimum 70% Canadian overall, as well as a statement of purpose. They usually need to write about a 500 to 750 word statement of purpose of why they want to do this program. So there is a little bit extra to get in, but I think if you do have students that aren't quite sure what they want to do after their 10+2, sciences, arts, social sciences, this could be an option for them. Sorry. And last but not least is our School of Health, Education and Health. This has been a wildly popular program in the Indian subcontinent region, as well as globally. In particular, I think given the nature of this program and its focus on the prevention of disease, the prevention of spread of germs, its focus on epidemiology, air quality, water quality, food quality. Before this pandemic, it was very popular. Post this pandemic, I think it's going to blow up. Before March of 2020, I don't think you heard the word epidemiology or health sciences as much as we have today. And this is exactly what this program is focused on. Considering there's only 6 universities in Canada that offer this program at the undergraduate and postgrad level, it has been very popular. We actually had to cap our September intake this year because we only have so many seats. And even the January intake is capped at 60 seats. So if you have students interested in January, please get these applications in soon. It's not open yet because we're still processing the applications for September. So we don't necessarily have the January section open yet, but please consider this is going to be a popular program. It is available for 10+2 students that have graduated, but it's also available to university graduates that have a science-related degree to do it as a 2 or a 3-year program, depending on how many subjects they take per semester. We have had a lot of students coming from the south of India, in particular Kerala, because there's a lot of nurses there. But this is open to nursing graduates, chemistry, biology graduates, students that have done physiotherapy, any science-related program, okay, are eligible for the 2-year postgraduate or the post-degree option. So again, if your students are focused on epidemiology, healthcare, the spread of disease, this is a very, very popular program, okay? In terms of the International Student Center, we do help students, like I said, with work permits, postgraduate work permits, permanent residence applications. We do have 3 orientation sessions that are very important for our students to attend. This is where it's going to get them the bank account, the mobile phone. It's going to help them know more about what employers and what industry expects from them when applying for a part-time job. A lot of students skip the orientation sections, and usually the students that come and complain that they cannot find a job within the first month are those students that haven't attended that. So please stress that to your students. And of course, when we do eventually open up, we will have our airport pickup. In terms of applying to CBU, again, you're all very familiar with our partners in India. The process all has to go through them. We do have a new ERP, so it's going to be faster for processing. The next intake is September, and we are just waiting for the final round of applications to be processed. I do apologize if you have an application in and it has been delayed. We are currently migrating our old system onto a new ERP. It is going to be launching this week, so we hope to have any current applications processed in the coming weeks. So if you do have an application with us, it should be processed very soon. I do apologize for that. In terms of English proficiency, this is something very important, and I need to give you an update on. Up until now, for India, we recognized that most students, if not all, study in English, whether it's the CBSE, the State Board, university. Given the volume of Indian students that are coming now to Canada and the visa rejection, it has increased in the last 4 or 5 years. We are putting in an IELTS requirement for students starting for January applications, January 2021. If you submitted an application for September, or your student has been accepted for a previous intake and needs to defer to January, it will not be required. But for all new applications for January 2021, we are going to require a minimum of 6.5 on IELTS, no band less than 6. We also will accept Duolingo at 115 for undergraduate or 120 for masters. But I would stress IELTS, and I'll tell you why. One of the big reasons we've decided to require IELTS is because the embassy is giving a lot more visa rejections. And we've noticed that students who have a 6.5, no band less than 6, are having a much, much better visa acceptance rate, okay? Also the fact that SDS is now requiring an IELTS score, I know a little bit lower, of 6, but because SDS is now the primary way that students and the embassy want students to apply, we felt it was time to require an IELTS. We do expect to see probably a reduction in applications, but we also expect to see an increase in visa acceptance, okay? So I know a lot of your students are probably gonna say, well, you know, I don't wanna write IELTS. I would say this, students that don't write IELTS moving forward, I think are really going to struggle to get a visa, okay? So I think moving forward, writing the IELTS exam and getting a 6.5 is going to really, really guarantee, or not guarantee, there's no guarantee, is really going to help them get the study permit. And at the end of the day, this is the ultimate goal. There's no point in getting accepted to an institution if you cannot get the visa, okay? So please consider that. Starting January, 6.5, no band less than 6. We do accept Kale, Duolingo. We accept PTE, which is not listed, but we do accept PTE as well at a 59 and TOEFL at 80 out of 120, okay? If you have any questions about that, we can take those in a moment. For me, that is, I think, the main programs I wanted to highlight. I am going to be having a very specific nutrition and Bachelor of Science in Nutrition program coming up, I think next week. So I am going to talk more about that, but I would love to hear any questions you guys have or any feedback that you would like to provide us.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. We do have few questions here with us. And the first very famous question is that classes will be online in September. So do you want to highlight on the online classes?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, that's, and I did include that in the presentation because I knew that was going to be the first question. So yes, at the moment, every university in Nova Scotia is going online. Almost every university in Canada. I know there's a few colleges that probably aren't, or a sprinkling of universities that are going to be offering on-campus classes, but the vast majority of Canadian publicly funded institutions are going online completely for September. There will be no on-campus classes for current students or new students come September. That decision was taken with great consideration because obviously students want to study abroad, not just to get a Canadian qualification, but also to study abroad. I think studying abroad is a very important thing, but it's also for postgraduate work permits, for immigration options, all of those things. So I do want to take a minute to explain how that's going to work and what marketing material we're going to provide you for promoting this to students. So, given the fact that classes will all be going online in September, any students that do get a visa for the September online session, or who already have a visa for May and have deferred till September, essentially any students who have a visa for May or September and decide to study online with us, this time will be contributed to a postgraduate work permit up to 50%. Okay? And what that 50% mark means is that even if students have done 50% of their program online, that time will count towards what's needed for the postgraduate work permit. This has been stated in writing by the Canadian government. And if you want to see the legislation and the rules, go to our website, cvu.ca/COVID-19, and you'll see an update from the Canadian Immigration Services. Okay? If students end up completing more than 50%, which is very unlikely because we do hope to be back on campus by January, it would not. Okay? So if students are starting online, they will use that time towards the postgraduate work permit. We are not allowing students to start in September if they do not have the visa. Okay? So if your students have been accepted to CBU but do not get the visa in time, I think it's September 14th is going to be the cutoff date, we are not letting them register. And the reason why we're not letting them register is for two reasons. Number one, any time that they do spend in class will not count towards the postgraduate work permit. So if they eventually do get the visa, but don't have it when they start, we don't want them, when they graduate, to have some confusion about when their start date for that visa is going to count. So we're only accepting students that have the visa online for September. And second, we don't want students starting online that don't have a visa to find out they've then been rejected the visa. Because any courses they take online, they will have to pay for, whether they get the visa or not. So it's very important to stress, we are only offering online subjects for September, and we're only allowing students that can show they have the study permit to start in September. If they haven't, they can defer until January. And any student who has a valid May offer letter or a September offer letter, it is good for 1 full year. Because I know there's going to be a lot of students who get the study permit and say, do you know what? I want to wait. I want to see what's going to happen for January. And if that's the case, that valid study permit for September is good for January, May, as well as September 2021. And there is no need to request a new updated offer letter. It will say on the offer letter all of the dates that it's valid. Is that pretty clear, Dakshita? Did I leave anything out?
Yes, Brad. I think so that it's clear, and we have updated a lot many of our partner agents about the online programs that we are starting with, and I believe that most of the students are comfortable. I just want to know one answer from you, Brad. If the students have paid, like if there is a tuition deposit and unfortunately they do not have the visa yet, I think that they can also enroll for the online classes.
if they put down a tuition, but they do not have the visa? So we would ask no, because they can still be rejected for the visa, even if they've paid the tuition deposit. We are at the mercy right now of waiting for CIC to process those visas. And I'll give you a scenario. Say, for example, a student started in September without the visa, and they find out, say, mid-October, that they have been rejected the visa. Unfortunately, those 3 or 4 subjects or 5 subjects they start online, they will not be able to get a refund for those subjects that they've started. So they would have taken those courses and then eventually not be able to come to Canada unless they reapply for their visa and get accepted. But it's very important to keep things clear and to manage their expectations on when time will count towards their postgraduate work permit. That we only take students who have been granted the visa for September. So if your students have been accepted but do not have the visa come September, they should not start. Okay?
Okay. Thank you, Brett, on that answer. So would you like to repeat the Duolingo acceptance once again? Just a quick one.
Sure. Yep. So we do, as an institution, accept Duolingo at 115 for undergraduate or 120 for our post-baccalaureate business programs. The reason why we started accepting Duolingo is because I know that a lot of IELTS test centers were not available for students to take the exam. But I would stress this to you. The Canadian government does not accept, at the moment, Duolingo for SDS. SDS is the very, very, what's the word to use? It is the preferred stream for immigration and the study permit that the Canadian Embassy wants. So if most visas in the general stream are getting rejected, it's better to do SDS. And if SDS doesn't accept Duolingo, it only accepts IELTS, I don't necessarily see the value in doing Duolingo. This is up to the student. We do accept it, but I just want you to understand that if students only do Duolingo, they can't apply for SDS. And if they can't apply for SDS, there is a significantly higher visa rejection. Does that make sense?
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So we have covered almost all the points, all the updates in the COVID-19 on the online classes. So would you like to do some conclusion lines? Because the questions that are being asked here, we'll make sure to reply them on email because it's
Sure.
the same questions here.
Yeah, no, listen, I just want to say thank you to every one of you for your continued support of Cape Breton University. This is such bizarre times that we're living in. I had planned to be in India in the subcontinent for almost a month in May, as well as probably 3 weeks in August. And obviously that's not possible because we can't leave Canada and we can't enter India. So without you guys and women, this would not be possible to connect with these students. I know this is a very frustrating time for them, and I'm sure you're hearing that every day because, I mean, people are very anxious to start their international education abroad, but unfortunately, we can't do it at the moment. So again, I just really appreciate all the support from the individual agents. Of course, our team in India, we couldn't help coordinate this without them. And again, if there's any feedback you have from students about wanting to defer till January, we really would love them to start in September. I know it's not ideal to start in September, but it is a great way for them to save money on cost of living without it impacting their postgraduate work permit or the length of time that they want to study. So if there is a way to get students to start online, it is a great way to get them started with a little bit of savings on the cost of living and, of course, on your commission payments. Okay? So those will be my final words, and I just really hope to see you sooner than later.
Thank you so much, Fred. I hope you have enjoyed our exclusive webinar of CBU. And if you've missed anything, don't worry, we'll be sending you a detailed email with the presentation on your email IDs. Thank you so much, and see you guys very, very soon.